I should start by saying I've never believed in ghosts. Not really. The idea always seemed messy and illogical. If the dead were everywhere, bumping around in the attic or weeping in the pipes, then the world would be nothing but noise, a static of unfinished business. No, the things that truly scare me are made of flesh and blood, or the terrifying absence of it. Loneliness, for instance. The kind of profound, echoing loneliness you can only find at 3:17 a.m. in a place that's meant to be full of people, but isn't. That's where this story lives. In that quiet. And in the quiet things that started to share it with me. You have to understand the geography of the all-night Stop Mart. It was a 20-year-old strip of fluorescent-lit limbo on Route 9, sandwiched between a defunct laundromat and a payday loan place that blinked a sickly yellow sign. My world, for 8 hours a night, 5 nights a week, was roughly 40 feet by 60. Glossy white tile floors that held the chill of the industrial cooler, even in August. Endless rows of chips and snacks in packaging so bright it felt accusatory. The low bronchial gurgle of the coffee urns. The smell, that specific institutional cocktail of pine-scented cleaner, stale hot dog water, and the faint, sweet decay of aging produce. I wasn't a loser, I don't think, just adrift. College didn't stick. My friends had moved on to real jobs. The all-night was a financial stopgap that stretched into 2 years. My manager, a perpetually exhausted man named Gary with a mustache like a weary caterpillar, called me his night rock. Dependable, quiet. Didn't steal from the register or smoke weed in the cooler. The job was simple. Stock ring clean. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., I was the kingdom. The only employee. Well, the only official one. The regulars were my court. There was Ben, the night shift nurse from the county hospital, who'd come in at 2:30 a.m., his scrubs smelling of antiseptic and a deeper, more metallic fatigue. He'd buy a Red Bull and a pack of peanut butter crackers, and we'd exchange a few sentences about the quiet, the weather, anything but what he'd just seen. Then there was Marla, a 60-something insomniac who lived in the apartment complex behind the store. She'd wander the aisles in her pink robe and slippers, filling a handbasket with single-served puddings and tabloid magazines. Her presence, a gentle, rustling comfort. And there was Leo. Leo came in every night like clockwork at 3:05 a.m. He drove a sand-colored delivery van for a bakery, and his shift ended when mine was just getting interesting. He was a big man, soft around the middle, with kind eyes and a laugh that sounded like a chair scraping across a wooden floor. He'd buy 2 chocolate Long Johns and a black coffee, and he'd linger at the counter for 10-15 minutes. We'd talk about movies, his grandkids, the mysterious fluid leak under his van. It was a ritual, a tiny anchor of human connection in the vast, dark ocean of the night. I looked forward to it. The first incident was so small, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. It was a Tuesday, or maybe a Wednesday. The days bled together. I was in aisle 3, the snack attack aisle, facing a shipment of barbecue chips. The store was empty. The only sound was the hum of the coolers and the distant, tinny Muzak version of Every Breath You Take that Gary insisted we keep on low. I was crouched, cutting a box open with my box cutter, when I heard it. A clear, crisp crinkle. Not from my box. It came from down the aisle near the beef jerky. The sound of a chip bag being handled. I stood up, my knees popping. The aisle was deserted. The bags of jerky hung undisturbed on their metal hooks. I walked down, feeling silly. Probably just the building settling, or a bag shifting on its own. Still, I checked the end cap. Nothing. As I turned to go back to my work, a smell hit me. Not the artificial smoke of barbecue chips, but something richer, earthier, like raw peanuts. It was gone as quickly as it came. I wrote it off. Stress, boredom, the brain-seeking pattern in the silence. The next night it was the magazines. I was at the register scrolling on my phone when I heard the distinct, whispering shush of magazine pages being turned. Not the brisk flip of a browser, but the slow, considered turn of a single page. It came from the rack by the door. I looked up. The rack was spinning lazily, empty space where a person should have been. My heart did a little two-step against my ribs. "Hello?" I called out, my voice too loud in the quiet. No answer. The door hadn't chimed. I walked over, my sneakers squeaking on the tile. The top magazine, a field stream, was open to a centerfold spread of a rainbow trout. It hadn't been that way before. I checked the security monitor above the register. A black and white triptych showing aisles 1, 3, 4, 6, and the register door area. Grainy, silent footage. All empty. I locked the front door for 5 minutes, my back against it, and did a full sweep of the store. Storage room, both coolers, even the single occupant bathroom with its eternally damp floor. Nothing. I was utterly, completely alone. But I was breathing too fast. The air felt thick, watchful. When Leo came in at 3:05, I was so relieved I almost hugged him. The familiar sight of his rumpled uniform, the smell of yeast and diesel that clung to him. It was a tonic. "You look like you've seen a ghost, kid," he chuckled, placing his pastries on the counter. I forced a laugh. It came out dry and brittle. "Nah, just a long night. Thought I heard a raccoon in the ceiling or something." He nodded sympathetically, his eyes scanning my face a little too carefully. "This place gets to you after a while. All this empty. Plays tricks." I rang him up. Our ritual, a soothing balm. As he took his change, he hesitated. "You know, this spot, it's got a history. Before it was a Stop Mart, it was a little family-owned hardware store, burned down one night. The old owner, he didn't make it out. Story is, he was a real solitary guy. Loved this place. Lived in the apartment above it." A cold trickle traced my spine. "You think it's haunted?" Leo shrugged, his bulk making the gesture monumental. "Nah, not like in the movies, but places hold on to, I don't know, mood. Maybe he just liked the quiet too." He gave me a pat on the shoulder that nearly rattled my teeth. "Keep the door locked when you're alone, yeah?" After he left, the silence felt different. It had a texture now, a potential shape. The following week, the violations became more personal. I'd find my stock cart moved from aisle 2 to aisle 5. The FM radio in the back office would be tuned from the classic rock station. I always left it on to a faint, whispering stream of static and old-timey big band music. Once I came back from a bathroom break to find the customer service pen, the one on the stupid little chain, was warm, as if just held in a human hand. And the smells, they became more specific, more frequent. Not just peanuts. Now it was the sharp, clean scent of sawdust, the oily, metallic tang of machine tools, the comforting, vanilla-like smell of pipe tobacco, the smells of a hardware store. I started talking to it, Not out loud at first, just in my head. Okay, I get it. You're here. This was your place. I'm just minding the register, no hard feelings. It felt insane, but it also felt necessary, like acknowledging a presence in the room to avoid startling it. The camera feeds started lying. This was the point where my rational world truly began to fracture. I'd be in aisle 4, stocking soups, and I'd hear the unmistakable clink-clink of glass bottles being nudged together in the dairy cooler. A quick glance at the monitor above the end cap would show the cooler aisle, aisle 1, empty and still. I'd walk over, my pulse in my ears, and find a single gallon of milk placed neatly in the middle of the floor, directly under the camera's unblinking eye. The feed had shown nothing. One night, Ben the nurse came in looking more hollowed out than usual. He didn't even pick up his Red Bull. He just leaned on the counter, his skin the color of the ceiling tiles. "Rough one?" I asked. He let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "You could say that. Code blue that didn't make it. Elderly guy just slipped away. It's a weird feeling. One second there's a person, the next just an empty room." His words, "an empty room," echoed in my head long after he left. Was that what this was? A presence lingering in an empty room? But it wasn't just lingering. It was interacting. The climax began on a night so still. The buzz of the lights sounded like a swarm. Marla had been in, a fleeting ghost in pink. Leo had come and gone, leaving a deeper quiet in his wake. It was the dead zone. 4 a.m. The world outside the plate glass windows was a void. I was behind the counter, filling out the shift log when I heard the new sound. It was a soft, rhythmic scritch, 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 like something being sanded. It came from aisle 6, housewares, automotive hardware. My blood turned to ice water. I didn't want to look, but I had to. This was my kingdom, my responsibility. I picked up the heavy flashlight we kept for emergencies, my hands slick with sweat. The scritch, scritch, scritch continued, steady, patient. I edged down aisle 5 using the shelves of cereal as cover. The sound grew clearer. I peered around the corner into aisle 6. The aisle was empty. The sound stopped. On the floor, directly below a hook holding a few dusty packets of sandpaper, was a small, neat pile of fine wood dust. It hadn't been there 10 minutes ago. And on the linoleum tile next to it, clear as day in the fluorescent light, was the imprint of a shoe. Not a sneaker like mine. It was the outline of a work boot with a worn tread and a squared-off toe. Damp, as if from morning dew. My breath hitched. This was proof. Tangible physical proof, not a sound, not a smell, an object and a mark. The violation was no longer just sensory, it was territorial. I was being worked around. I did something stupid then. I got angry. The fear curdled into a hot, defiant rage. This was my shift, my solitude. "Okay," I shouted, my voice cracking. "Enough. Show yourself. Stop fucking with me." Silence, a deeper swallowing silence. The muzak had even cut out. The coolers held their breath. Then, from the far end of the aisle, near the automotive fluids, a shadow detached itself from the deeper shadows behind a display of antifreeze. It wasn't a man. It wasn't a smudge on my vision. It was a concentration of darkness, a silhouette that seemed to drink the light around it. I couldn't make out features, but I felt its posture, slightly stooped, shoulders slumped as if from a lifetime of labor. It didn't move toward me. It just stood there, present. The smell of pipe tobacco and sawdust washed over me. It was so strong I could taste it. I didn't wait. I ran. I bolted past the shadow, a scream trapped in my throat, and fled to the back room, slamming the flimsy door and locking it. I huddled behind Gary's desk, flashlight gripped like a club, listening. For a long time, nothing. Then, I heard the slow, measured footsteps. Not the squeak of my sneakers, but the solid, deliberate thud of work boots on tile. They passed the back room door. They continued out to the sales floor. And then, the familiar comforting beep of a register key being pressed. Once. Twice. He was ringing someone up. A hysterical thought burst into my head. He's checking out. His shift is over. I stayed behind that desk until the first gray light of dawn bled through the high, dirty windows. Until I heard the newspaper delivery guy slap a bundle against the front door. Only then did I unlock the door and creep out. The store was just a store. Empty. Normal. The register was closed. The cash drawer secure. On the counter, next to the scanner, lay a single item. An old weathered claw hammer, its wooden handle smooth and dark with age and use. It was real, solid, ice cold to the touch. It was not, and had never been, part of our inventory. That was my last night. I called Gary, quit on the spot. He thought I'd stolen something, then got spooked. I didn't correct him. I left the hammer on the counter. I heard through the grapevine that my replacement lasted 3 nights. The one after that, a week. The all-night Stop Mart is still there, on Route 9. They've started scheduling 2 people for the graveyard shift. Rumor is no one will work it alone anymore. So no, I don't believe in ghosts, not the chain-rattling, moaning kind. But I believe in resonance. In the echo of a life so deeply ingrained in a place that it becomes a groove in reality. A habit the universe can't quite kick. A man who lived for his store, who died in it, and whose final solitary shift never really ended. He wasn't malevolent. He wasn't trying to scare me. I see that now. He was just continuing, doing his rounds, facing the shelves, sanding a phantom piece of wood. And in the profound, empty quiet of the night, he must have been so lonely. So when I showed up, another solitary soul in his space, he just acknowledged me, maybe even tried to be helpful in his own inexplicable way. A co-worker in the void. That's the true horror, I think. Not the thing that goes bump in the night, but the realization that you are not alone in your loneliness. That the empty room is, in fact, shared. And that the other occupant has been there much, much longer and has no intention of ever clocking out.